A fine movie if ever there was one. Om. 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 Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Mavidvishavai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. May the divine being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the divine being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto thee, unto us, and to all your beloved children everywhere. Oh, dearly beloved, make it so. So welcome everyone and namaste. This is, of course, our Saturday class in which we read and discuss Swami Ranganathananda's book, Divine Grace. Our reader is Jeff Solich, and unless there is something that anyone would like to bring up from any of our past sessions, or anything that just is of importance to you today, we'll go ahead with the reading. Is there anything at all that anyone would like to comment on, or has a concern about, or a question? Anything at all? All right, dears. Well, we're well along in the book. Swami Ranganathananda is making the case that to be fully human is to be fully divine, and is making that case painstakingly, page by page, showing us that our manifestation of first our humanity, and then the transcendent divinity of which our humanity is a reflection, is the fulfillment of our destiny. Again, any comments or concerns or questions?
I have one, brother.
Oh, yes, please.
Just looking slightly ahead at what I'll be reading, I can't remember if we've encountered this Sanskrit term before. Sharanagati? Am I saying that right?
Saranagati.
Saranagati.
It means refuge. It means taking refuge.
Okay, like Sharanam has the same root as Sharanam.
Saranagata means I take refuge in my divinity. So Saranagati is well said, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So we are in the middle of page 36, picking up with the paragraph that begins one of the great verses. One of the great verses of the Gita, which has inspired our saints and devotees, sings of God caring fully for those who have completely erased their own ego in the Saranagati of pure bhakti. So this is chapter 9, verse 22. Persons who, meditating on me in an attitude of non-separateness, constantly worship me during work as well as during worship, to such who are thus constantly in a state of yoga, I carry what they lack and preserve what they already have. Shall I repeat that, Brother Shankara?
Please, and let us take this very seriously. This is one of Krishna's great promises, that if you turn your attention fully to the divine, they will provide what you need. The divine will provide what you need. They, by that I mean Thakur Ma, or the divine masculine and feminine, will provide what you need. And furthermore, see that you are not dispossessed of what you already have. So please do read that again.
One of the great verses of the Gita, which has inspired our saints and devotees, sings of God caring fully for those who have completely erased their own ego in the Saranagati of pure bhakti. Chapter 9, verse 22 of the Gita. Persons who, meditating on me in an attitude of non-separateness, constantly worship me during work as well as during worship, to such who are thus constantly in a state of yoga, I carry what they lack and preserve what they already have.
Any comments or questions?
I will read on then.
Okay.
The same idea is expressed in a verse in the Mahabharata also. The English translation is, Hari, the indwelling divine in all, carries what one lacks and protects what one has. In the case of all those self-discipline seekers who are wise, who tread the path of spiritual freedom, and who have broken the grip of sensual cravings. And I'll read that one again.
And again, here there is a little further definition of what is meant by worshiping me all the time. And that is having broken the grip of sensual cravings, so that that doesn't come as an interruption to the constant worship or yoga with the divine. Please do read it again.
Hari, the indwelling divine in all, carries what one lacks and protects what one has. In the case of all those self-disciplined seekers who are wise, who tread the path of spiritual freedom, and who have broken the grip of sensual cravings. The wording in English is so similar, where it says carries what one lacks and protects what one has. I'm wondering if the Sanskrit words are identical or close to.
Well, what it is that is so often Sri Krishna is quoting from the Upanishads or the Mahabharata. The Gita is said to be the cream of the Upanishads, and so he is simply quoting. And so I would guess, though I don't know for a fact, but I would guess the Sanskrit words are virtually identical, sufficiently enough for the Swami, for Ranganathananda to translate them identically, so that we don't make any mistake, that there is any, the mind is always looking for a chink in the armor. So he's not allowing us to find any loophole. Anything else from anyone? Thank you. All right, please read on.
God delights in serving his devotees is a recurring theme in the bhakti literature of India, and finds illustration in the life of several of our lovable saints. The latest glowing example comes from a moving incident in the life of Swami Vivekananda himself. During his 3-year wanderings all over India as a Parivrajaka,
Pravrajaka. Actually, parivrajaka.
Parivrajaka, which is a wandering monk, right? An itinerant monk. After the passing away of his guru, Sri Ramakrishna, and before his departure to America, Swami Vivekananda traveled without any thought for the morrow, carrying no purse and depending upon God alone. Narrating the incident, The Life of Swami Vivekananda by his Eastern and Western disciples, says, and this is the beginning of a long quotation, so I'll pause after each paragraph.
Oh no, you can just read right through it. It's a story.
Oh,
So
okay,
read
okay,
the whole story. Then we can review it.
okay. It is a long one, so here we go. It was one of those scorching summer noons in the United Provinces, Uttar Pradesh, when the Swami alighted from the train at Tari Ghat. A cloak dyed in the usual sannyasin color and a third-class ticket for a station some distance away, with which someone had given him, were about his only belongings. He did not possess even his kamandalu or water vessel. He was not allowed by the porter to stay within the station shed, so he sat down on the ground, leaning against a post of the waiting shed for the third-class passengers. Of the motley crowd assembled there, we need mention only a middle-aged man of the North India trading caste, a Bania, who sat on a dhuri or cotton mat, a little way off under the shelter of the shed, almost opposite to the Swami. Recognizing the Swami's starving condition, he had made merry at his expense as they journeyed in the same compartment the previous night. And when they stopped at different stations and the Swami, who was suffering intensely from thirst, was unable to obtain water from the water bearers because he had no money to pay for it, the Bania bought water to satisfy his own thirst, and as he drank it, taunted the Swami, saying, "See here, my good man, what nice water this is. You, being a sannyasin and having renounced money, cannot purchase it, and so you have the pleasure of going without it. Why don't you earn money as I do and have a good time of it?" He did not approve of sannyasa, I'm sorry, let me start that sentence again. He did not approve of sannyasa. No, he did not believe in giving up the world and money making for an idea. In his opinion, it was only right that the sannyasin should starve, and so when they both alighted at Tari Ghat, he took considerable pains to make it clear to the Swami by means of arguments, illustrations, and pleasantries that he got just what he deserved. For the Swami was in the burning sun while the Bania seated himself in the shade. "Look here," he began again with a derisive smile curling his lips. "What nice puris and ladus I am eating. You do not care to earn money, so you have to rest content with a parched throat and empty stomach and bare ground to sit upon." The Swami looked on calmly. Not a muscle on his face moved. Presently, there appeared one of the local inhabitants, carrying a bundle and a tumbler in his right hand, a dory under his left arm, and an earthen jug of water in his left hand. He hurriedly spread the dory in a clean spot, put on it the things he was carrying, and called to the Swami, "Do come, Babaji, and take the food I have brought for you." The Swami was surprised beyond words. What did this mean? Who was this newcomer? The jeering Bania's look was changed to one of blank amazement. The newcomer kept on insisting, "Come on, Babaji, you must come and eat the food." "I am afraid you are making a mistake, my friend," said the Swami. Perhaps you are taking me for someone else. I do not even remember ever having met you." But the other cried out, "No, no, you are the very Babaji I have seen." "What do you mean?" asked the Swami, his curiosity fully aroused, while his jocose friend stood gaping at the scene. Where have you seen me?" The man replied, "I am a sweetmeat vendor and was having my usual nap after my noon meal, and I dreamt that Sri Ramji was pointing you out to me and telling me that I was pained to see you without food from the day previous, and that I should get up instantly, prepare some puris and curry, and bring them to you at the railway station with some sweetmeats, nice cold water, and a dory for you to sit upon. I woke up, but thinking it was only a dream, I turned on my side and slept again. But Sri Ramji, in his graciousness, came to me again and actually pushed me to make me get up and do as he had said. I quickly prepared some puris and curry, and taking some sweets which I had prepared this morning, some cold water, and a dory from my shop, I ran here direct and recognized you at once from a distance. Now do come and have your meal while it is fresh. You must be very hungry." One can imagine the Swami's feelings at this time. With all his heart, the Swami thanked his simple host, while tears of love flowed from his eyes. But the kind man protested, saying, "No, no, Babaji, do not thank me. It is all the will of Sri Ramji." The jeering Bania was quite taken aback at this incident, and begging the Swami's pardon for the ill words he had used against him, he took the dust off his feet. And that concludes that quotation.
Now, isn't this an amazing story? The Swami was wandering India, relying entirely on the divine to look after him in this way that has been described in the previous paragraphs. And when he is in this extremis of hunger and thirst, Ramji, of course, Ramji was Sri Ramakrishna. He who was Rama, he who is Krishna, is present in this body as Ramakrishna. That is, of course, Vishnu. And so we see this story, which is said to be every word 100% true. They would not have been included in that book that it was mentioned if it had not been proven to be true. The Swami himself, Vivekananda, affirmed it. So what are we to learn from this? If we can be so self-denying, if we can be in the state of earnest yearning for yoga, for union with the divine and detachment from the things of the world, this will be our lot as well. And of course, it is on which all of the Ramakrishna order Swamis and Pravrajakas, like Rajaprana, who's coming December 2nd and 3rd to the center, these things are well known to them, and they depend on them entirely. They take no thought for earning money for themselves or for their communities. Though they may run a bookshop or something like this, that's not the point. And it isn't even doesn't even begin to meet their expenses. So anything else from anyone? Any comments, concerns, questions from anyone?
I call that a divine grace, Brother Shankara, right?
Oh, yes. Oh,
Divine grace, if you have faith and devotion.
if we live the life of a bhakta
Mhm.
and a karma yogi, then these things arrive at our doorstep.
Thank you.
Thank you, dear. Anything else from anyone?
Brother Shankara, I had heard this story before, but I had never heard so many details. So it's really wonderful to experience it in that way. And it comes from the book, The Life of Swami Vivekananda by his Eastern and Western Disciples. So I'm wondering, is that book written by someone, or is it a compilation of lots of testimony?
It's a compilation. I forget who the compiler is, but it is a compilation of recollections by his Eastern and Western disciples. I read it long, long ago. I mean, literally decades ago. So I don't remember much about it, but it is well worth your time if you haven't read it, because there's so many incidents of this kind. During his wanderings in India during those 3 years, not to mention his other adventures in the Western and Eastern world, Vivekananda was an intrepid soul. Many wonderful and startling things happened to him. Just his adventures in Chicago for the Parliament of World Religions and what led up to it is remarkable in itself. How he managed to end up being a delegate to that, let alone the star of the Parliament and all that ensued from that. If there's nothing else from anyone, then Jeff, please do read on.
Certainly, but I need another Sanskrit lesson first. Yogaksham. I know I'm not saying this right.
It's yoga kshemam vahamyaham. That means I'll take care of my devotees.
Okay, Yogakshamam
Vahamyaham.
Vahamyaham. Okay, I hope I say it that way when I read it
Okay.
in a few seconds.
Close enough, Jeff. No one's counting.
It's not that my ego is on the line here, but I'm just wanting to learn. So that's all that's happening, and I want to do the best job that I can.
You're doing a great job.
In his conversations and dialogues, Swami Vivekananda himself referred later to his many experiences of divine grace in his life, as promised in this Gita assurance of Yogekshamam Vahamyaham.
Vahamyaham. Yes, you got it.
Okay, thank you. Just barely. In the complete works. Time and again I have received in this life marks of his grace. He stands behind and gets all this work done by me. When lying helpless under a tree in an agony of hunger, when I had not even a scrap of cloth for a kopina or a loincloth, when I was resolved on traveling penniless round the world, even then help came in all ways by the grace of Sri Ramakrishna. And again, when crowds jostled with one another in the streets of Chicago to have a sight of this Vivekananda, then also I could digest without difficulty all that honor, 100th part of which would have been enough to turn mad any ordinary man, because I had his grace. The great transfiguration of Krishna, the Vishvarupa, or form universal, was seen alike by Duryodhana and by Arjuna, but only Arjuna believed, while Duryodhana took it to be magic. Unless he makes us understand, nothing can be stated or understood. Something comes to the fullest faith even without seeing or hearing, while somebody else remains plunged in doubt even after witnessing various extraordinary powers for 12 years with his own eyes. The secret of it all is his grace, but then one must persevere so that the grace may be received. And this is a long paragraph, long quotation, and it will follow with a conversation. So I thought I'd pause here.
Let's just pause to define perseverance. What is being said here by the Swami is that our practice must be virtually daily. We simply cannot penetrate beyond our ordinary reflected awareness of the divine as this stardust spacesuit self. We cannot penetrate beyond that unless our practice, whatever it is on a regular daily basis. And when it is, there is this grace that we see is behind and pushes it forward. It isn't that we're being pushed in the sense of being compelled. We have asked that the divine person push us forward beyond what we would think of as our ordinary limits. This is what is meant by perseverance. So, anything else from anyone before Jeff launches on this long reading that he sees ahead? Okay.
I really like the second sentence. He stands behind and gets all this work done by me. So that's a way of saying I'm not the doer, God is the doer, and that's just another element of God's grace.
Exactly. God alone is the doer. Sri Ramakrishna says it over and over. God alone is the doer. God alone is real. God alone is the doer. So we can make an attempt to assimilate that, or we can leave it be. As long as we're sincere in whatever we're doing, no harm, no foul. Okay? All right, dear.
So this is an interchange between Swamiji and a disciple. Disciple: is there, sir, any law of grace? Swamiji: yes and no. Disciple: how is that? Swamiji: those who are pure always in body, mind, and speech, who have strong devotion, who discriminate between the real and the unreal, who persevere in meditation and contemplation, upon them alone the grace of the Lord descends. The Lord, however, is beyond all natural laws, is not under any rules and regulations, or just as Sri Ramakrishna used to say, he has the child's nature, and that's why we find some failing to get any response, even after calling on him for millions of births, while someone else whom we regard as a sinful or penitent man or a disbeliever would have illumination in a flash.
I think the word is impotent.
No, not how it's spelled here. I'm not familiar with that word. Now I can't find it. Penitent, Penitent.
Ah, well, penitent.
Penitent.
And in any event, sorry I interrupted you. I
So,
missed. It was a mistake on my part. So
no, no worries. On the, let's see. The Lord, however, is beyond all natural laws, is not under any rules and regulations, or just as Sri Ramakrishna used to say, he has the child's nature, and that's why we find some failing to get any response even after calling on him for millions of births, while someone else whom we regard as a sinful or penitent man or a disbeliever would have illumination in a flash. On the latter, the Lord perhaps lavishes his grace quite unsolicited. You may argue that this man had good merits stored up from previous life, but the mystery is really difficult to understand. Sri Ramakrishna used to say sometimes, "Do rely on him, be like the dry leaf at the mercy of the wind." And again he would say, "The wind of his grace is always blowing. What you need to do is unfurl your sails." Disciple: "But sir, this is a most tremendous statement. No reasoning, I see, can stand here." Swamiji: "Ah, the limit of all reasoning and arguing is in the realm of Maya. It lies within the categories of space, time, and causation. But he is beyond these categories. He on whom his grace descends in a moment goes beyond all law. For this reason, there is no condition in grace." Disciple: "Sir, I can't understand this." Swamiji: "And you needn't. Only get your mind to cling to him as far as you can, for then only the great magic of this world will break of itself. But then you must persevere. This persevering practice is called Purushakara, self-exertion, as distinguished from grace. By such self-exertion will come true reliance on him, and that is the goal of human achievement." And that concludes that passage.
And what a passage. I mean, it clarifies so much because it is in conversation with this disciple who asks very penetrating and very appropriate questions. There is both grace and purushakara, self-effort, self-exertion.
And there's no real formula of how much perseverance we have to do before we get grace. There's no laws, no reasoning that spells that out for us.
Nope. The universe, as Sri Ramakrishna used to say, is speaking of himself as Mother Kali. He would say, "I am capricious. I am capricious." Now that is a startling statement, but it certainly reflects the world of quantum physics. The world is not deterministic, it's probabilistic. And so, and this is demonstrated by the findings and experiments of quantum physicists. So we find that, as was said, one person may not find realization, yoga, after millions of births. Another person who, for some and Sri Swami Vivekananda says it's a great mystery. The guy says it's past karmas, and the Swami says, no, that doesn't explain it exactly. You know, what happens when someone as realization as it's put in a flash. All we can hope for is that as we move along, persevering in our spiritual practice, that something marvelous will happen. And we can understand that Sri Ramakrishna came for no other reason than to make those marvelous things happen. He came to unchain us and set us free. Again, it's Vivekananda who tells us in that wonderful hymn, Breaker of this Chain. He came to unchain us and set us free. So we can rely on that. Anything else from anyone? All right.
Brother, I have something.
Yes.
I tend to look at this in a way that maybe imposes some law or order on all this. So that's my error right from the get-go. But the working model, let's say, that I have in my mind is that by persevering in our practice, we're preparing ourselves for God's grace.
Just one moment. I can't talk now. I'm in class. Sorry for that.
So that's all right. So
I cannot talk now. I'm in class. Please respect that. Bye-bye. Okay.
So I was saying that my concept is that by persevering in our spiritual practices, that we're preparing ourselves for God's grace, making ourselves ready for it, maybe improving the odds that it will happen, and just keeping the connection.
You are being prepared here.
I'm sorry?
Please don't think you are doing anything. When Sri Ramakrishna says God alone is the doer, please don't think you are doing anything. You are being prepared, no doubt. But it is not you doing the preparation or increasing the odds, as you say. The odds are already all in your favor. Otherwise, you would not be here. You would not have taken instruction from a Swami. You would not be who you are. All of this, I would look all around us. All around us are billions of people who are in varying conditions of worldly life, some of whom may have some sort of religious practice, or some other tradition, well and good and wonderful, and prayerfully we say, may they succeed. Sri Krishna says they will succeed if they're sincere. But all we need to concern ourselves about is our own situation. Of course, we would pray for members of our own congregation and those that we love and care for. But all that prayer comes from our own spiritual realization and forward movement, which is by the grace of the divine, unmerited, and completely inexplicable, as the Swami points out. It's a great mystery why it happens. Does that make sense, Jeff?
Yes, perfectly. Thank you.
Okay.
I shared just want to try to apply some kind of linear, rational thinking to the process, but even if we try to do that, we can't know what's transpired in all the lives previous to this. And so you're never going to be able to have a known quantity going into it. And so, the thing is, so can we provoke this grace? And, through the self-effort and the practice, we would like to think so. But I'm with brother on this, that I think that whatever it is without merit, and whatever the condition needs to be met has already taken place, or we wouldn't be here.
Amen. Exactly. We do not do it. It is not done by us as this stardust spacesuit, body, mind, intellect, senses. We are trundling along as best we can, working through the ways of this world, slogging forward, as someone put it. Well and good. This lifetime in which we're embodied now won't last very long, even if we're still quite young. In cosmic terms, another 60, 80 years, whatever. It isn't a very long time. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, snapping his fingers, a human life is only 2 days' duration, trying to give us some sense of how short human life is. So we mustn't think that we're doing anything if we wish to believe what Sri Ramakrishna tells us. When he says God alone is real and God alone is the doer, we can either take him at face value and move ahead with that as our understanding, or we can continue to question. If we continue to question and doubt, it isn't that we're being bad and wrong, it's simply a waste of time. It's just, well, if we can't help it, we can't help it, so we do it. But it's better if we can just simply say, the Lord says it's so, I'm going to have the working faith that it is so, and I'm going to move ahead as I feel moved to go ahead and rely on the fact that it is the momentum and the movement and the desire to move ahead is all the grace of the Lord.
This is transformational. I've heard all these pieces, parts, but now I'm starting to feel like they're all coming together. And
Good. That's exactly the intent of these classes, Jeff. Exactly.
it explains why I feel crummy if I skip a meditation, or it explains why a lot of times I just have such a strong urge to sit and meditate, like I have no choice in the matter. I'm starting to understand what's happening.
Yes. And it is so gratifying when that sense of, you use the word understanding, when we begin to feel grasped by this and and have the sense that, oh, it is happening. It is happening. How wonderful. How splendid. Yes, it is a kind of understanding, but it's way beyond the capacities of the finite mind. The understanding comes from deeper within, from the Atman. Anything else from anyone?
I think the concept that we have by default of linear time and space is once you can divorce from that, then you begin to realize you're already there, and it's just a matter of obscuration.
Yes. Yes, we are to discover it, uncover it. As Vivekananda says in many places, in many ways, the truth of your being already exists within you fully and without any impediment. The only impediment is the coverings of our ignorance. So as we dispel the ignorance, quite naturally, that other pushes up and pushes out and becomes beyond any way of our measuring it or thinking about it linearly, as you say, the truth of our experience and our being. And this is when we begin to experience what Sri Ramakrishna refers to as various kinds of samadhi. He said there are thousands of different kinds of samadhi. Anything else from anyone? All right, dears, please read on.
Okay, another quick Sanskrit lesson first. Kacha is the unripe state. Am I saying that correctly? Kacha?
Spell it, please.
Kaca.
That'll do, sure. Gotcha.
Okay. And I guess that's the only quick lesson I need. So this is now Swami Ranganathananda speaking. The ego in man dies hard. Sri Ramakrishna therefore asks man not to engage himself in destroying it, but in transforming it from its kacha or unripe state into its paka or ripe state by engaging it in acts and moods of service and dedication. It is only this ripe ego that can appreciate self-surrender and respond to divine grace. In the course of a spiritual conversation, Swami Turiyanananda, an eminent disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, brought out the significance of this through a story, and this is from the book Spiritual Talks.
And it's Turiyananda.
Turiyananda?
Turiyananda.
Thank you. So this is a 3-paragraph quotation from Spiritual Talks.
Mm-hmm.
There is a story about Shiva and Parvati. One day at Mount Kailas, they were playing at dice when Shiva broke off in the midst of the game and went out. But he returned immediately, and so Parvati asked him the reason for this sudden exit and return. Shiva answered, "Well, a devotee of mine, having fallen among some robbers, at first took refuge in me. But before I reached the spot, I found that he had himself taken up a stone to throw at the robbers. At this, I came away." The Lord's grace doesn't manifest itself unless one absolutely resigns oneself to Him. It is no easy thing to surrender oneself to the Lord, and that wholeheartedly. They say that the devotee always beholds the Lord. It is quite true. In the Bible it is written, "For whosoever hath, to him shall be given, and he shall have more in abundance. But whosoever hath not, from him shall be taken away even that he hath." All this is very true. Just look at the question broadly from the standpoint of our physical health, for instance. A man who had good health improves by degrees, and little irregularities seldom affect him. But a man in bad health may take all precautions possible and yet fail to maintain his already poor health. A slight irregularity tells upon him badly. This is the case everywhere. It is a law of nature. But there is another side of the question. The Lord is the protector of the humble, their friend and helper. It is, however, very difficult to be humble. Humility cannot come so long as there is any egotism left. There is an ocean of difference between the lowness of position due to worldly circumstances and the humility of a devotee, that meekness of spirit which leads him to consider himself lower than even a blade of grass. Thou art guiding me by the hand, O Lord. This is no mere poetry. And that concludes that passage.
Thou art guiding me by the hand. This is no mere poetry. And it is because the Lord says, extend your hand, offers you that invitation. You accept the invitation, and then you are pulled forward. O Lord, take my hand. O Lord, pull me on. O Lord, draw me near, seek me by thy fire. All this is a truth when one accepts the invitation, which Sri Ramakrishna triple underlines in the gospel. Just extend your hand. Let the Lord take it. Then you don't have anything else to concern yourself about. This is the refrain. You don't have anything to concern yourself about. If you put yourself in the hands of the Lord, if you simply go from this state of the unripe ego to the ripe ego, you don't do away with the ego, Sri Ramakrishna says. It simply becomes the ripe ego, which has the quality of humility. Humbler than a blade of grass. Oh my goodness, how humble is that? Humbler than a blade of grass.
I'm reminded of M when I think of a devotee that has humility. I mean, here's someone who did so much for his master and for future generations, and yet he seemed to be totally humble.
A perfect saint, yes. He became perfectly saintly. And as you say, did nothing for himself. He didn't make any money off that, off those editions that he produced, those first several editions of the gospel. He produced one by one as episodes, as you know. It was so remarkable. And this became true of all of the masters, close disciples. They either became the Ramakrishna order, or they became like Girish Ghosh. These saintly beings that gave and gave and gave. Anything else from anyone? How are we doing for time?
We have got 6 minutes.
Okay, good. Please read on. Unless there's something else from anyone that wants some discussion. Okay, please read on.
The ego in man dies hard. Sri Ramakrishna therefore asks man not to engage himself in destroying it, but in Oh, I already read that part. No wonder it sounds familiar. Pardon me.
You go ahead and read it again. It's good.
Well, it's a rather long passage.
Okay, then go on.
Well, the next one is fairly long too. let's persevere. The subject of divine grace or divine self-revelation versus personal effort is a standing problem in spiritual thought. It is an unresolved problem only in its logical and intellectual formulation, as many such problems are. But it is resolved by the art of lived spiritual life and experience. Formulated by logic, it is an unresolvable contradiction, like several others in the dictionary of speculative philosophy. But the wisdom of life resolves every day many an unresolvable logical contradiction. The wisdom of lived spiritual life similarly resolves this apparent contradiction between grace and personal effort. This wisdom finds expression in some of the luminous sayings of Sri Ramakrishna on the subject. So these are quotations taken from sayings of Sri Ramakrishna.
Mhm.
The wind of God's grace is incessantly blowing. Lazy sailors on the sea of life do not take advantage of it, but the active and the strong always keep the sails of their minds unfurled to catch the favorable wind and thus reach their destination very soon. You may try thousands of times, but nothing can be achieved without God's grace. One cannot see God without his grace. It is an easy thing to receive the grace. A question. Is it an easy thing to receive the grace of God? One must altogether renounce egotism. One cannot see God as long as one feels, I am the doer. Suppose in a family, a man has taken charge of the storeroom. Then if someone asks the master, Sir, will you kindly give me something from the storeroom? The master says to him, There is already someone in the storeroom. What can I do there? I'm going to pause there because I'm not understanding that story. Brother, can you or someone
Which one?
help
Which
me
is
to understand? Suppose in a family a man has taken suppose in a family a man has taken charge of the storeroom. Then if someone asks the master, Sir, will you yourself kindly give me something from the storeroom? The master says to him, There is already someone in the storeroom. What can I do there?
what can I do there?
What can I do there?
So the sense of the story is that the master of the house has assigned someone to take care of the storeroom so that he doesn't have to worry about it. So if you want something from the storeroom, you get permission from the master, but then you go to the storeroom and ask the person who's in charge for what you want, and it's given to you. Now, God is the master. His servants, his eternal, the face of the eternal and voice of the eternal master, are the person that's in the storeroom. So if you want something from the storeroom, if you want something from the divine, you ask the representative, the person who's in the storeroom. That's the understanding of that story from here. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay.
So
Go ahead.
we have 1 minute, but we have 2 more quotations from Sri Ramakrishna, and they're fairly short.
Oh, that's fine.
God doesn't really appear in the heart of man who feels himself to be his own master, but God can be seen the moment his grace descends. He is the sun of knowledge. One single ray of his has illumined the world with the light of knowledge. That is how we are able to see one another and acquire varied knowledge. One can see God only if he turns his light towards his own face. The police sergeant goes his rounds in the dark of night with a lantern in his hand. No one sees his face, but with the help of that light, the sergeant sees everybody's face, and others too can see one another. If you want to see the sergeant, however, you must pray to him, "Sir, please turn the light on your own face. Let me see you." In the same way, one must pray to God, "O Lord, be gracious and turn the light of knowledge on thyself, that I may see thy face."
There we are. All these wonderful metaphors that Sri Ramakrishna uses to help us try to understand this mystery of how we come to see the face of God, which of course is very difficult indeed, because of the impediments of our ignorance, not because it's inherently, well, it is inherently difficult because of the structure of Maya, but once we see beyond the idea that Maya is there, then it becomes much more easy to get the idea. Then we must persevere till we actually have the experience. Anything else from anyone before we sign off? All right, dears, as always, so good to be among you. So good to share this with you. This is what is meant to study the art of spirituality together. We do it so well, and it is such a joy. So, Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Durga, Durga, Durga. May we be safe. May we be healthy. May we be cheerful. May we have peace of mind. And may the mother and father that are introduced in the opening prayer for each of our sessions, may that mother and father be known to us as holding us in their secure and loving embrace. That is their promise. It is the promise of Sri Ramakrishna. And it is the promise of all of the teachers that come and instruct us, the ones that come from the Ramakrishna. You can ask them about that. May you be well and in bright spirits, dear. Tomorrow morning, we'll have a talk at 11 a.m. on the subject of revelation. What happens when there is sufficient purification begins revelation, which is exactly what we were talking about today. Purification, the unripe ego becoming the ripe ego, and therefore being able to see beyond the ego's limitations. Until tomorrow morning, for those of you who decide to join us,